I've enjoyed talking to this guy for a long time. Mike Ryan was just telling me that he discovered our show for the first time when he was driving around South Florida, and he's like, Grant Hill's on the radio in South Florida. Why the hell is Grant Hill, superstar, on the radio in South Florida? But he's been representing the league so well, and Duke and himself so well, like really has been for a really long time a pillar of professionalism. So I'm thrilled to have you on, and I'm grateful that we get to talk to you again, Grant. Fill in a couple of blanks here for us with quick questions. The defender who bothered me the most was blank.
Cliff Robinson.
Uncle Cliff.
Uncle Cliffy, yes.
Who sadly is no longer with us, but he had great length, size. Surprisingly, he moved his feet well. And I could not get by him. I couldn't sort of bully him at the rim. So he gave me a lot of problems in my younger early career.
The defender who wouldn't shut up was blank.
Gary Payton. That's easy.
The glove.
The best scorer I've ever seen is blank, past or present.
Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was the best, no question. That's an easy one, too.
It really was. And what are you doing?
No, it's just going with scoring. You can, I mean, some people would make other arguments.
No one would make another argument. Nobody
would make another argument. Okay, so who's the second best scorer you've ever seen?
Kobe Bryant. So I'll say this. First of all, I didn't guard Michael a whole lot. You know, I guarded Scottie Pippen. We were both small forwards. I guarded Kobe, and I guarded him on one ankle in my late 30s, which was horribly unfair to do. I'm like, why did they give me? They must have just, let's give it to the old guy with the bad ankle. And Kobe, I'll tell you, he was relentless, had no weakness. You know, sometimes you guard guys and you have a strategy, and force him left, or doesn't like to go to his right, likes to turn over his right shoulder. But Kobe, there really wasn't a weakness, and he was relentless in his pursuit of looking to score. And I was guarding him when he was doing that, so that was no fun.
Grant, I've always wanted to ask somebody this, and you sit close enough to him where I can ask you. How does Jim Nance smell?
So I broke my nose my freshman year in college. Tony Lang, who was my roommate, we lost at Virginia. We bust home from Charlottesville. We get to Cameron, right there behind me, and Coach K calls practice. And in practice, he calls no fouls. And I go up to Duncan, and Tony hits me right in the face, and I broke my nose. And so I have a deviated septum. So I can't smell Jim Nance, even though I sit.
That's
Can't
unfortunate.
really smell anything.
What a curse.
But Jim, there's not a more genuine, not a more just incredible person. I mean, he is as good as advertised, and an icon in terms of broadcasting, the face of a network, kind of like the last of a dying breed, where you have a play-by-play guy who does everything for a network, like I'm trying to think of like McKay or some of the guys back in the day when times were a bit different. But he has helped me as a broadcaster, incredibly selfless. Just fun to be around. I look forward to this next month of great games, great food, great wine, and just a great fellowship with Jim and the gang.
I should, and I've been remiss in not mentioning that Grant Hill is with us on behalf of Phillips Norelco as they launch their latest product innovation, the Phillips Norelco One Blade First Shave. We'll get to that with him in just a second. But can you tell us, as somebody who just said you guarded Kobe late, do you have a good Kobe story?
Not really. I mean, well, yes. I mean, I do have a good story. I mean, so, I played in an era where you weren't friendly with guys on other teams, and that's very different now. Everybody knows each other. Everybody's connected, social media and so on and so forth. But, when I played, I didn't know Reggie Miller. I didn't know Steve Smith. Really got to know them working with them, in broadcasting. And I'm like, they're actually good guys, but I didn't have that kind of relationship with them back in the day. But Kobe and I, we filmed a commercial together back, I think, his second year in the NBA. and it was a Sprite commercial. And at the time, I'm kind of the big man. I'm Sprite's face, and we've had some great commercials. And Kobe's like just midway through his second year, and I fly out to LA on an off day. And before you film a commercial, they send the script, and there's approval, so you don't show up and not know what you're doing. And so when I get there, the director says Kobe wants to rewrite the script, and I'm like, okay, well let's see where this goes. And so the director comes back to me like 45 minutes later with the new script, and Kobe has all the good lines. Like I have no good lines, and like it's all Kobe. And I'm like, hold up. So then I have to pull rank, and I'm like, okay, look, nah, I can't do this. I came here thinking it was going to be this, and now you're trying to change this. And I flew all the way from Detroit to LA, on an off day. And so the director was right. And but I love how bold that is, and how to me that was Kobe, and like he didn't feel like I'm the youngest guy on the team, I should defer to Shaq. No, I'm better than Shaq. And that, you think about his rookie year and how he took the last shots in those playoff games against Utah. Like, just you have to be bold, and you have to be willing to be an assassin, to be great. And he had that mindset, and he had it on the set of the Sprite commercial back in 1997.
In his second year.
Crazy.
In his second
year. Oh, he's telling me like, no, it's about me, not about you.
I mean, but how do you respect that instead of getting pissed off? I can't imagine there were a lot of, I know you're a competitor, but you are so graceful in every way. So I can't imagine that you wouldn't just be like, what are you doing?
No question I did that. Yeah, and I threw in some expletives as well. Like I was, time heals wounds, and you gain perspective, and so, but at the moment I was like, hold up, I'm letting him be in my commercial, and I flew all the way out. Like that's where my head was at,
right.
and so, but no, it was all good, and as I got to know or at least understand him a little better, that's how he was wired, and that's what made him great.
You say time heals all wounds, and I would say some, because I remember you taught me the expression. I know where the expression practicing medicine comes from. They were practicing on me. They were practicing on my ankle. They were practicing on my career. Where do your regrets reside on decisions that you made for the team in that moment? Not just medically, but in general. Just when you look back at your career, and it was a great career, but before your injuries, you were headed into a stratosphere, and then the injuries happened, and your body couldn't keep up with the promise all of us saw. Even though you were already achieving plenty, it's just there was another step for you out there that couldn't be taken because you physically couldn't take another step.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I was on a great trajectory before I got hurt, and then a comedy of errors. There was some incompetence. I mean, it's unbelievable to think what happened and what could have possibly been avoided. I'm glad I came back. I played 9 more years after I finally got the ankle right, but I was never quite the same. It's interesting. I just completed a book, and the book will be released in June. Hopefully you'll have me back. We can talk about the book then, but I get into exactly what took place over that 4 or 5 year period. I think for me, one of the interesting things, I probably suppressed a lot of that to get through it. And, you constantly are trying to think, okay, I got to get back. So I never really internalized what was happening in the moment. And actually, ironically, when I made the Hall of Fame, it was announced in the lead up to enshrinement that year in 2018, you naturally reflect when you were celebrated with something like that. And I reflected in that moment, or at least preparing and going through and writing the book, and it got dark, before the book, it got dark for me because I'm finally like living with some of these feelings and emotions, and I hadn't done that up until that point. And so But in the book, I get a chance to go back, relive, recall, share. It's not about outing people or making people look bad, but making people understand like what exactly took place and what that was like and what I was feeling in those moments, or what I was not feeling, and what it was like as a newly married in a new city with a new child and not being able to play and so to walk the reader through that was kind of therapeutic, I think, in some respects, going back and living in that space. But every once in a while, I'll often wonder, like, what could have happened. I also realized this: I didn't appreciate how good I was before I got hurt. I'm the type, and even now, if you go in my house, there's no evidence that an NBA player lives there. And I always felt like, don't put up a shrine to yourself because you get soft. And I was always chasing Isaiah and chasing, the legends and wanting to win. So I was never quite happy or never satisfied, and really never appreciated the good moments and what I was able to accomplish while I was doing it, because it was never quite good enough. And it was always next play, next season, next game, get it, and I never really looked back, but I have recently, and it's actually been good to do that, been healthy. And anyway, I get through all that. I share a lot of that in the book coming out.
I look forward to talking about that with you, because I wonder, in the joy that gets lost there, how much the perfectionism was ingrained by not just the patterns of competitive fire, but also your parents, and where not good enough affected you in ways that were fuel as well as hurtful. But we'll do that next time, because we've got to tell the people about what you're doing here with Norelco, what the challenge is with Norelco, and then we've got to punctuate the segment by laughing at the last game that Coach K had at Duke. We gotta laugh at you a little bit. So before we hurt your feelings, we're going to allow you to promote the social media challenge that you're doing here, and then we're going to laugh at you, because it was wonderful to see Duke lose that way on Coach K's
fans crying.
Look at how mad,
crying.
Look how mad he is. Yes,
Oh,
America
Jesus.
gets the. America likes to laugh at Duke, Grant, even though you've been trying to carry the mantle for Duke for a long time.
But first, Phillips.
Yeah, no, definitely. First of all, before we get to laughing, I've partnered with Phillips Norelco, and we're kicking off a campaign. We're promoting this new Phillips Norelco One Blade First Shave. It's really designed for not you and I, but for young, new to shaving young men. It provides a fast, clean, comfortable shave. And my first shaving experience wasn't that pleasant. It was actually quite bad. And so we get a chance here to provide a great first-time shaving experience for adolescent guys. And, for me, look, I went to Final Fours with my dad in middle school and high school. And so I'm always thinking about that moment, that time. It was when I fell in love with basketball, and I was fortunate to go on and play in Final Fours and move on. But, I remember those times. I remember that was when, I started shaving and this, that, and the other. And so to be able to celebrate, to be able to promote, and to do it around, the most exciting time in the college basketball season is really cool. We have a great activation on social media. We're looking for fans' best bracket-inspired facial hair. So we want guys to post selfies of their March mustaches, bracket beards, and everything else. We want them to go at Phillips Norelco, or tag at Phillips Norelco and use the hashtag Norelco Grooming Challenge. And the winners could can receive a Phillips Norelco grooming kit. So really exciting, fun time of the year, trying to activate with fans. And I appreciate Phillips for allowing me to do this.
Back to Duke, Carolina. Dan and I were debating here, Grant. Do you think that Carolina fans, if given the choice, beat Coach K, final home game at Cameron Indoor, or win the national championship, which one do you think they would choose? They can only have one.
Well, we have to question the fans at North Carolina. And, and I say that because I think they would take beating Coach K in his last game at Cameron. If the roles were reversed, you know what? they can have the great Dean Smith last game in the Dean Dome, or the great Roy Williams last game in the Dean Dome. We go for championships, and so but that's a Tar Heel. That's what you get.
It hurt, Grant. It hurt.
No,
Come
but
on.
that is the most cutting thing you will ever hear Grant Hill say in public. Just slicing that is the most hated thing, right? In sports for you, there is nothing more hated for Grant Hill than the Tar Heel.
I don't like to use the word hate, but sometimes you have to bring it off the shelf. And
It's so nice.
I'll say this. We know that there's been documentaries about Duke and about people not liking us and the Fab Five, and we had no issues with anybody. I was a fan of the Fab Five. I was close with Chris Webber. I get into that in my book that's coming out. I got along with everybody else, but I did not like Carolina. And I grew up a Carolina fan. And that was what was crazy. I grew up a Carolina fan, but it was like living with the enemy. And when we were in school, Carolina they were everything. They had the great success with Dean Smith. At Duke, which is 6 miles away from North Carolina, you'd be in your cafeteria line at the lunch, having lunch, and the people there working in the cafeteria were Carolina fans. And so they talk trash to you. Y'all gonna lose to Carolina and blah, blah, blah. And so, it was like everywhere you went, it was North Carolina. But we've started to change that a little bit. Now in the state of North Carolina, you got a lot more of that richer shade of blue that has just more character and more substance to it than that. I don't know, whatever shade that is.
He's so angry. He's so angry that this passes for trash talk with him. He has lost his mind. He's out of control right now with rage and hatred. This is the most
take it off the shelf. It's dusty.
He took hatred off the shelf. Listen to me, North Carolina. The hatred has been taken off the shelf. Do you know what it takes to make Grant Hill, a poised professional, reach onto the shelf in a divided America that has plenty of hate? He's trying to bring everybody together, but for North Carolina, he will take the hate off the shelf. Grant, we will talk to you again this summer when the book comes out. Thank you, sir.
All right, Dan, Jonathan, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Look forward to it.
Thank you, Grant.